Coming up on the Booth Review, London, we got a mid-season review.
Yeah, and looking forward to seeing if the defense can build on the performance they had in Madrid.
Yeah, and I'm also excited about this offense, like what they look like if they get healthy.
That's next on the Booth Review. Welcome into the post-bye week edition of the Booth Review podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein with Logan Paulsen and London Fletcher. We're brought to you by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus Pre-C. Logan and I are in the BigBear.ai Command Center studio, lovely and decked out for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Very nice, right?
London's down the line celebrating Thanksgiving with his family. Nice to see you, London.
Oh yeah, I'm in the Big Fletcher in-home studio.
All right, so normally for bye week, I go away, but because we were just in Spain, I decided to sit at home. What'd you do? Just chill?
So, yeah, what did I do? Hockey tournaments, soccer tournaments. You know, my kids are 8 and 11, so that's when you're away as much as we've been away this year. Yeah. It's good to kind of catch up, build some equity back with the family. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
what did International Fletch do? What'd you do for bye week?
Man, International Fletch, I stayed at home all pretty much the entire week except my son and his high school football team, Providence Day School down here in Charlotte. They won a state championship.
There we go.
Shout out to them. Went 13-0. Wow. They won a state championship on Friday night. I'm sorry. And then the rest of the weekend, man, I literally didn't leave my couch much. Just sat there, watched a lot of college football on Saturday, then a lot of pro football on Sunday. Logan, did you guys play on Friday?
Yeah, we did play on Friday. We won 41-0.
Ooh.
Yep, and now we got kind of our big game this week against Riverbend, which is like for the region, and then next week is semis, and the following week would be state. So we got a couple more games to go, but hopefully we make some waves.
We're going to get a contingent out there in Virginia to see you.
Hopefully,
yeah?
That'd be great. Yeah.
All right, very good. Because we did not play, obviously, this weekend, we're going to do it's kind of not a mid-season review, 2/3 of a season review.
It's a bye-week review.
Bye-week review. And why don't we just kind of start from the beginning and to kind of get us to where we are, which is I think we're all hoping after what happened in Spain that there's going to be kind of a reset specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Hopefully some people return so we get a better look at what this offense could be moving forward. But why don't we kind of go through what got us to this point? Because the record is clearly not what anybody had hoped it would be. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of reasons for that. Why don't we start on offense a little bit here, where I think the story of the season is the group that we thought would be the starting unit never practiced together at any point in time from day one of training camp, which I think has a lot to do with where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I totally feel the same way. Obviously, injuries are a big part of the NFL, and like Fletch could attest to that. Like everyone's got to kind of play banged up, but this is a different type of animal. You know, like when you're missing some of these key pieces, Terry, Noah, obviously Austin Eckler, and then kind of the musical chairs, especially early in the season on the offensive line, it just doesn't lead to a good product, you know, because so much of what this game is, and again, like Fletch knows this better than anybody, is like your ability to kind of have nonverbal communication with your teammates, understand route depths, understand different coverages. If you're a receiver, offensive line, we're passing off twists, we're passing off stunts in the pass game, but it's also run game. How do we fit double teams? Where are we targeting these things? How do we communicate these kind of last second looks? So I do think that, like you said, that the fact that they haven't really practiced together at all shows up at times this year. And I do think you're starting to feel them come out of it a little bit offensively, but I do think like some of the offensive woes and issues were largely due to injury.
Yeah.
I've always felt like it's a lot harder to play offense, produce offensively if you're not gelling, you're not getting that rhythm together, whether it's the quarterback getting his time and kind of timed up with the receiving core, offensive line, as you mentioned. Those guys, they have to really play in unison. They have to spend a ton of time together. Just Cosme, he missed first, I don't know how many ball games he ended up missing, first 4 or 5, 6 games. So now that unit is starting to look good, especially the last couple games. But just the injuries, Jaden has missed 6 games, 5 games. Terry has only played in 4 games. Noah just 2 games played, and it adds up to a product that you've seen on the football field. Austin Eckler, who we really haven't talked to. I don't think we've talked enough about the loss of Eckler and what he brings to the offense and his dynamic playmaking skills, not just as a runner, but also as a pass catching back out of the backfield, and his ability to pick up blitzes, all the different things that he he brought to the table. So, there is a reason why we're sitting where we are from an offensive standpoint and really as a team standpoint, because, if you can't score many points, it's going to be tough to win games.
Yeah, the difficulty from camp was, and a lot of this is, it's been negotiated out through the CBAs that there's only so much practice you're even allowed to have anymore. There's only so much practice in pads that you're even allowed to have anymore. And then when you're missing people, like left and right, as what did Cliff call it? Like time on task, get on the grass. And it just never happened throughout the course of the summer. And we saw an offense that was kind of struggling to find itself throughout the summer. And it was, I thought, a lack of cohesiveness that was out there. And I was kind of hoping that it would turn after they had some time together. But then the injuries started piling up and it cascaded on them in a certain way, at least on that side of the ball. That's kind of how I view what happened, at least early in the season, to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're still seeing ripple effects. Like early or not, like you're still seeing ripple effects of that. Like I think Cliff's kind of had to change his entire offensive approach. It went from this spread, let's get into 3-by-1s, let's find our isolations, let's run from spread looks, let's let the quarterback kind of be the master at the line of scrimmage. And when you lose some of the horses on the perimeter, that just becomes much more challenging to do. So I think when you look at like kind of the first case study, which is the Giants game, to the most recent, like the offense is, I don't want to say completely different, but it feels like drastically different than what they came into the season expecting. Like I remember going to training camp practices with you guys and watching and being like, man, this is what they want to be doing. And now it's kind of a total departure. It's a much more of like slow the pace of the game down. We're going to be in our hurry up, no huddle stuff, but we're going to run the football a little bit. We're going to be a little bit more conservative with our shots down the field. We got to insulate the offensive line. So I do think it's been a complete overhaul from a multitude of perspectives, but again, I think you're still feeling that ripple all the way through from early in the season.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's been games. We think about the game a couple weeks ago where we had maybe 3 or 4 receivers just active for the ball game, and you go into the game, you're playing a bunch of 3 tight end looks, and just to try to manufacture plays, manufacture yards. That wasn't the ideal or the vision of this offense coming into the season and I love tight ends, but Cliff in this offense, it was not the vision to have, 3 tight ends in the game a ton of times, but you're like, hey, this is what we get. This is what we got. These are the guys we got. Let's figure out ways to make plays, manufacture yards from the offensive standpoint. It seems like, as you mentioned, we're starting to turn a corner, maybe from the health standpoint. I know that, they opened the 21-day window for Noah Brown, so hopefully he's able to get back on the football field. Terry, hopefully he's able to come back. We need those added guys down the stretch. Hopefully Jaden's able to come and play soon. So let's see what that offense looks like with those guys on the football field together. And hopefully we can get multiple games with these guys on the football field.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting too, Fletch. Like in some ways, I think having to explore these different avenues of the offense has been good. I know it doesn't feel good, but I think kind of learning different ways to kind of insulate personnel, I think that's been good to see. So like all of a sudden when you bring Terry and Noah back and we're in a little bit more heavy personnel groupings, like the play action pass game is going to be a little bit more effective. Those vertical shots are going to be more effective because the offensive line is going to be more comfortable. So I do like that they were kind of forced to play left-handed here a little bit because I think it's shown them a different side of what they can get to and what they can be, which again, like I'm glass half full here a little bit, but like I think that is, with the injuries, you've kind of had to figure out, again, what young players can do, what this offense can be. So I think there are some positives to be taken away.
Like back in the summer, so Noah Brown was injured. Terry was injured plus the contractual situation. And remember, they were running out younger receivers outside, and they were open about these are not the positions we expected them to be in. And the hope was all along, well, these guys are going to come back, and they'll go back into the slots that they're supposed to be. And it just, because of injuries, never materialized. And it's these 2 spots. So we'll get to the defense in a minute. The defensive end spot that got ravaged by injuries and the wide receiver spot that got ravaged by injuries. where all of a sudden there was kind of a depth challenge, which I think forced both sides to try to figure out, okay, what do we do to try to mask a lot of this? I never would have envisioned Trent Scott playing as much as he did in the role that he did early in the season, but they had to adjust to it, which has recently turned into Brandon Coleman playing in a similar spot here. So they've played with an interesting hand, I think, throughout the year, and they've tried to navigate it. And unfortunately, welcome to the NFL, where if you have deficiencies, there are going to be other teams that are going to try to take advantage of that against you.
Yeah, and I think like Fletch, and we've talked about this a ton, like just the, again, when you don't have, when offenses don't have certain elements to them, like vertical passing attack, Fletch, like I just think about you as a defensive player, like it just opens up the whole book for you. You know what I'm saying? At least that's my understanding of it, right? So I'd say like if you don't have any kind of elite perimeter pieces, and again, that's not to besmirch or indict any of the guys that are playing, but when you don't have a Terry McLaurin, it allows you defensively, I'm assuming, Fletch, to play different coverage structures and put yourselves in better positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on plenty of defenses where we said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We don't feel like the outside guys can consistently beat us play in and play out down the field, or it may be the quarterback. There was times we may not have felt like the quarterback was going to really feel comfortable throwing the deep shots and doing certain things.
Who are you thinking about when you talk about that, Fletch? Who's the quarterback? Like Chad Pennington style or what?
like I'm not.
I can see it. I can see it in your eyeballs. I was like, he's talking about somebody specific. I'm not saying he's not a good player. Like he's
quarterbacks in the NFL, but Chad didn't take a lot of deep shots, so. Play the percentages, right? We're going to play the percentages. We're going to play only a certain part of the field, defend certain parts of the field. But just from as you mentioned, as far as if you don't feel like, hey, they're not going to take a bunch of shots deep, or these guys can't consistently beat man-to-man coverages, we know they're going to lean heavily on the run game. So we're going to put a lot of stack the box, bring blitzes against the run, force those guys to play left-handed, like you said, make some guys beat you that aren't used to playing, making big plays in critical situations. And that's what a lot of teams did. And I think it started really, if you go back, it was probably the Cowboys game? No, the Bears game. That first Bears game where they were the ones that all of a sudden they changed up what they were doing against us, what they had done against other teams. They were a high zone team, didn't really blitz a lot. Coming to our game, a lot of man-to-man, a lot of pressures. And then teams are just consistently kind of stuck with that game plan.
And do you remember the Dallas game too? Like that one was the one that shocked me. I know you called that like two days ahead of time that they're going to play more man, but I was like, they've never done zone. They've never done like heavy man, heavy pressure stuff. It's all been zone, cover three, keep it in front. And they were like a total departure. And you don't take those big departure shifts if you think that if you aren't not worried about what they're bringing offensively in terms of wide receiver position. So I think that you felt the ripple. And again, there's more elements to that. I think the offensive line build over the course of the season. Yeah. But I think that is like the big story. Like you talk about like positions of injury. Yeah. The receiver specifically, you look at it and you say, man, like it really had a cascading effect for probably, I don't know, like I'm trying to think about their game schedule here in terms of like which games were really impacted. But I think it did start, obviously, like you felt it in the Packers game. You felt it in the Falcons game to a certain extent.
Yep.
And then those are the games, excuse me, for the season. So
yeah.
I thought go ahead.
No,
I was about to say real quick. I thought the Falcons game, the offense were able to do enough. I thought Cliff did a nice job of scheming up some shots down the field. Defensively, kind of didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But definitely, the game that stands out the most to me was that Bears game where they came in there and really just said, hey, we're gonna play a ton of man-to-man and bring pressure and see can they deal with that, and it kind of went from there. Kansas City did what they wanted to did what they normally do, but Chicago, Dallas, Seattle, just a bunch of different games where we weren't able to consistently get production out of that core because of as you mentioned, just the injuries and guys being forced into roles that they weren't necessarily viewed to play coming into the season.
Yeah, so Austin Eckler gets injured. That became a big deal, I think, for their run game and their passing game, for that matter. And the wide receiver core gets hit by a glut of injuries, and then all of a sudden, teams are playing them differently. saying, we dare you, right, to try to beat us at this position. On defense, Dietrich Wise represents both of those things to me. That he was brought in alongside a number of the other position players to help with a rush defense that needed improvement from a year ago. And in the first couple of weeks, you saw it in real time. The second he got hurt, all of a sudden, that became a big deal. And then, not unlike the wide receiver position, they got hit with a glut of injuries at the exact same spot over and over and over. And suddenly, not only were they without some of their best defensive linemen, Dorrance Armstrong, namely, that comes to mind there, but they had lost the depth of it. And that, to me, is the story of the beginning of the issues that the defense had, was up front at one position where they could kind of not afford to lose certain people like Wise and Armstrong, and they did.
Yeah, Fletch, I don't know how you saw it, but like to me, it was kind of like one of these things where they came into the season with a roadmap or a plan of what they wanted to do defensively, and it was like, we're going to get bigger in the defensive front. We're going to be better on first and second down. We're going to kind of tip that statistical variance in our favor on first and second down because we'll be better. We'll be in more third downs. We'll win more third downs. Yeah. And again, like when that piece left, when Dorrance Armstrong got hurt, obviously they weren't that defense anymore, and I felt like that was a huge part of it. But I also felt like there was kind of this, I don't know, like this mental lapse that kind of started right after the Bears game that kind of, again, like it's a personnel thing, but there was also like an execution thing that popped up for me when I was watching a little bit. And I was just, I defer to you on a lot of this stuff if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I'll say this. The Wise injury was big. That was huge because of his versatility, not just he's a bigger defensive end and being able to stop the run, set hard edges, which we've had a lot of trouble with the perimeter runs, whether it's outside zone, toss plays, things like that. Any ways that they're attacking the perimeter. So that was a huge in us winning a lot of first and second downs. I thought also you mentioned Dorrance Armstrong. I thought John Baptiste was also going to take a step forward. I thought he would benefit greatly from having a guy like Von Miller in the room to kind of help him, really help with his pass rush. And that was another guy that we lost. And then obviously Dorrance, who was our best pass rusher. So from the pass rush standpoint, but also from the stop and run standpoint, all those things hurt. You mentioned there was definitely some communication issues on the back end, some busted coverages, I think also some confidence had some guys that lost some confidence too. And it's hard to get your confidence back during the season. You can you have to continue to have like really good games, build those games up. And it's hopefully this past ball game that we had in Madrid, guys are able to really build upon that moving forward. But it just from a confidence standpoint on the back end, we had some issues there and some coverage things that crept up, and got to be able to put pressure on the quarterback, get a pass rush.
Fletch, have you ever been a part of a team that's kind of seen this confidence slip? I know you've mentioned some time in St. Louis before and maybe Buffalo, but could you talk about the process of what that feels like for the player maybe? Because I know offensively it feels a very specific way, but defensively, what's that like?
Yeah, it's the same where, say, I'll talk about it from a unit standpoint where when I was in St. Louis, we had 99 won a Super Bowl. And I just happened to check this yesterday. We were the number one ranked run defense in the NFC. Think fourth in points allowed. Think we were tied for first in sacks. We had a lot of top 5, top 10 rankings. The next year, we were at the bottom third and sometimes 30 plus, ranked 30th or worse in some of the key metrics, points being one of them. And it would be a situation where we'd have really good halves, good quarters, and then we give up a big play. And then it was like, oh, shoot, here it goes again. And, guys, that entire year, we just was never able to collectively get our confidence back and be the same unit. And this was with this pretty much, we brought back maybe 10 starters on that defense and drafted some other good defensive players. But for one reason or another, we were not able to get our confidence back going because, you'd have some good plays and then you give up one play and be like, oh, shoot, here we go again. And it was just that ripple and snowball effect.
I think that's another thing too that we haven't really talked about, maybe as much as I'd like, is that I think this team this offseason was designed as like an offensive-led football team.
Correct.
Right? And
they went and acquired Laramie Tunsil. They went and acquired Deebo Samuel. They were going all in to have an offensive-oriented team. Yes.
Yeah, and so like when you have a team like that, again, it insulates the defense. You possess the football longer, you score more points, you play with a lead, you kind of let the defense you force the other team's offense to play a very specific way that the defense can now make sure that they're covering and handling. And I think that the whole thing changed, right? When obviously with Jaden Daniels' injury, Terry's injury, Noah Brown's injury.
They never practiced together.
They never practiced together. It goes back to the same thing. But like the fact that the offensive unit never got to where they were, I think it showed a lot of the defensive warts. And it was interesting hearing you talk about St. Louis, like with that really good offense and how, again, that helps you defensively.
Yeah,
stuff up.
Yeah, we won. We were winning games, but the offense was scoring. We were winning games 35-30. I mean, right. 38-31, because we had a margin for error because of the offense being able to put up the type of points that they were able to put up. But it's just unprecedented where you had two positions ravaged by injuries. It would be one thing if we lose one receiver, leave one defensive end, you lose one defensive back, and, kind of spread it out throughout the football team in different position groups. But it's been the wide receivers and it's been the defensive ends.
Yeah. And the big difference this year, and I think we knew this was going to be different, was the schedule. And a lot of times it's not who you play, it's when you play them. Frankly, had the Commanders played Miami 3-4 weeks ago amid what was going on with them, that could have been a very different, they could have won anyway, but that could have been a very different outcome. At the same time, you could say they played the Giants in week 1. The Giants are a very different team now. You get a very different performance out of them. But think about the people that they lost, especially on defense, and the opponents that they played. Achane, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, they caught a lot of the wrong teams at the wrong time. This was a much more difficult schedule than they had a year ago. And they had all of these things that were compounding it, and they're catching it was week after week, we were catching top 7 offenses with strong running backs as a focal point of their offense. That was trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's something that I know I talked with Fletcher about this offseason, when you play strength of schedule increase, right? So you're going to play better offenses, you're going to play better quarterbacks, and people talk, you don't know where the team's going to be at. The one metric that's pretty consistent is quarterback. If that's a good player, it's going to be tough. So we knew the schedule was going to be tough. They knew they were going to stress, regardless of how healthy the team was, they were going to get stressed regardless by the quarterback play, by the teams. You mentioned running backs, but I look at, Jared Goff,
Pat Mahomes,
Darnold, Patrick Mahomes, all these guys that are playing good football at the moment. And when you are a good rising team, you're going to see more of those quarterbacks. You got to rise to the occasion, no doubt. But I think that's another thing that needs to be considered here too. Is this team was not at their best. They didn't prepare at their best, not because of people not wanting to, but because of injuries and various of those things.
Yeah.
And you're playing better opponents. So to me, it just makes sense that there's going to be a little bit of a struggle this year in terms of performance.
Yeah. This needs to be asked too. The whole offseason was about expectations. All of it. I mean, go look at the way the schedule was set up, all of the night games, all the standalone games, and then there was a ramped up pressure on this team off of the way that they performed a year ago. And here they are with all of these injuries, critical spots where depth is truly tested. They never really practiced together on a certain side of the ball. Their quarterback gets injured a couple of times, and it all kind of feels like it was closing the walls in on them a little bit. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another thing to talk about too, is I think about, this is a little bit different, Fletch, but the expectations of 2012 going into 2013. And again, there's a million other factors that go into that year for us. But I do think that's something that players, especially young players, maybe players who haven't been in these situations a lot, they have to negotiate that too. So it's it's the injuries, it's the expectation, it's a tougher schedule. And I think people talk about opponent toughness, but I think this for us, I know traveling with the team, this schedule's been tough, man. Late night games, early mornings back, kind of short abridged weeks. It's a different ball game when you're winning a lot of football games, and I think you feel all of those things. There was a lot of adversity. They didn't set themselves up in the best position to be successful with the adversity, and then all those variables come together.
Real quick, London, I talked to somebody and they put it this way. It was said to me, in the case of a situation like this, a win feels like a relief and a loss feels like 3 losses. And that's partially the expectations just kind of like bearing down on you. Meantime, they're not even putting out there a semblance of what they thought their team was going to look like when they started the season.
Yeah, I'll say this too. Not only expectations from obviously the national media, the fans' expectations, and expectations within the building, there's also the element of you got a bullseye on your back too now. So you're a 12-win team. You win 2 road playoff games, make it to the NFC Championship game. Now, teams aren't going to overlook you. Teams are going to, hey, we're playing the Washington Commanders. They got this high-powered offense. They got Jaden Daniels, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Expectation for him to make another step. The expectation is we're going to be definitely a playoff team. So these teams, as they're competing against us, they're like, hey, we're going to knock them off. That's part of it too. You're no longer a hunter. You're being hunted. So you have to have that mindset. And it has to take place in your preparation during the offseason too, realizing, hey, people are going to be gunning for us now too. If we don't take the proper mindset and realize that teams are going to ramp up when they play against us, you'll have some games where you're like, man, how did we find ourselves in a battle against this team, or how do we lose this ball game? And whether it's a better team, tougher schedule or not, you have to understand that teams are going to come to play against you, and you got to be ready for that challenge.
On the other side of the bye, I felt this way watching Miami, like playing them, in Madrid a couple of weeks ago. They went through the worst of it about 3 weeks earlier. They fired their GM. They traded away one of their star players on defense. Clearly, the record was what it was. There's a lot of discussion about, what's coming down the road. And maybe things just kind of opened up for them a little bit. And they've been more competitive. They'd won 3 or 4, off of that. Beat the Bills, won in Madrid against Washington. I'm hoping, and I think, that after what I saw in Madrid, that we're behind what is probably the hardest part of this whole season. I thought the defense kind of level set itself a little bit there. And I'm hoping we're going to see, as London alluded to earlier, some of our star players may come back in the next couple of weeks, maybe sooner, where we get a chance to see what this team could look like moving forward. So I'm hoping we're kind of through part of that. So on the other side of this, I think you may see a very different team, a level set on defense. Hopefully Jaden and Terry are playing sooner rather than later, and we get a little bit more of a semblance of the team we thought we had in the summer as opposed to the one that we had the first couple of months.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is just the level set defensively. They went through a couple of weeks there. It was kind of rough, and I think everyone was disappointed. But I think after watching them in Madrid, watching them versus Miami, and again, Miami's not a top shelf offense by any stretch of the imagination, but they have dynamic playmakers. I thought the tackling was better. I thought the run fits were better. I thought the coverage responsibilities were better. And again, are they going to be the best defense in the NFL? No. Dan Quinn on the game plan last week was like, we need to turn the football over still. We need to set better edges in the run. All those things are still true, but at least there was the floor was raised. And so if you can just play games like that, again, versus the Broncos offense, which is kind of middling, the Minnesota offense, which is kind of middling at the moment, you kind of say, if they can just keep us in it and we're not losing by 20 points in the third quarter, this team has a shot, especially with, I think, the way that Cliff is now calling games. So I think of all the things, health obviously is important, but kind of finding something defensively to hang your hat on and say, this is our standard, this is what we can look to moving forward. Yeah. I think that may be the biggest thing coming out of Madrid.
They were more connected. You saw just a more cohesive defense. Was it perfect? No, it was not perfect. And as you mentioned, DQ talked about some of the run things, some of the run fits, stuff like that. And I'm sure that would be the big takeaway. Like, man, we still could be much better in our run fits where we allowed them to get some of those explosive runs. So you still need to improve there. Didn't really. They had maybe one pass play over 20 yards. That was aided by a missed tackle, but just they look much better as a defense. You were able to. I thought the confidence, the physicality. You saw some guys. I saw some guys flying around, playing really good football. The linebackers as a core, I thought that was their best game of the season. McGee made some outstanding plays in space. Frankie had some nice plays. Bobby, made some nice plays. Had that excellent pass breakup in the end zone to prevent a touchdown on 4th down. So there's a lot of stuff you can build on. And I think even within that, there'll be even more things to kind of add to the defense. And we saw a couple different types of pressures or simulated pressures. Maybe you add some things off of those what you showed last week against the Dolphins. So moving forward, you mentioned the Broncos offense. Let's see if we can take advantage of an offense that has had some struggles at time and add some turnovers, like you said.
Yeah, and again, like that's a group that's okay being in a close game. And like that's awesome because like they're trusting their defense and they're being conservative offensively.
Yep.
But when you're in a one-score game, it can go either way. And I think like if they kind of capture some of that explosive play magic, they really need to make sure that they are that is a building piece, the Miami stuff. That it's not just kind of a flash in the pan. Like NFL to me is about being consistent.
Yeah.
It's about coaching consistency. It's about player consistency. It's about consistent execution. And so like, can you take that performance and then parlay it into something down the road here where you say like, these are some pieces that we can build around that are growing. And I think again, like that's what I'm really excited about coming out of the bye is all the stuff the defense did.
Yeah, and these are interesting opponents for what I think is now the set group of the offensive line moving forward. There's been a lot of changes here. Josh Connerly is now 11 games into his career. Sam Cosmi, we were waiting for him to get his sea legs back. He's played a few games. He's out there. Chris Paul is settled in here. Brandon Coleman's being used as the big tight end. The sixth offensive lineman, Tunsil, is as good as advertised. And all of a sudden, you're going to get Denver, who, as of a couple weeks ago, led the league in sacks. You're going to get Minnesota, who's incredibly talented up front and very exotic in the way that they bring their defense. You're going to get the Giants front. I know they just fired their defensive coordinator, but there's not a lack of talent up front on that group. I'm interested to see that. And then I'm hoping Jaden, Terry, Debo, Noah, Ertz, Bill, let's see what this looks like. I'm hoping they all could come out, play together. Let's get a look at what this is.
Yeah, I'm 100% with that. I think, yeah, man. And I think the thing that, again, I go back to that point that I made earlier, Fletch, basically saying that I kind of like that they had to play a little bit left-handed here for the last couple of weeks because I do think Cliff, like Connerly is playing better. And one of the reasons he's playing better is because Cliff is calling a game that is more supportive of the offensive line in pass protection and on first and second down. And so I think like bringing that knowledge with you into games like this versus teams that have high sack production, you say, hey, now our offensive line is not only playing better, but we're putting them in better positions because we had to earlier in the season. Let's keep doing that because if that group's playing well, we have a shot to win the game. We have a shot to elevate skill position players on the perimeter. So I think in some ways that's really good for that group to kind of have that elevation schematically also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Denver is the number one. They still lead the league in sacks, Bram. They're 49 sacks. And the key is don't be in third and long situations. Let's try to run the football. And we ran it 33 times. I think it was 32 or 33 times against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get that number up even higher. Logan, I love to run the football, especially against teams like that who want to rush the passer. They want to get after the quarterback. Just continue to lean on those guys, man. Let the battering ram Rodriguez continue to do his thing and let Bill Krosky-Merritt get going too. And you mentioned we've added elements to our offense that hey, wasn't there at the beginning of the year. We and that's been a good thing. You've seen some guys start to establish roles for themselves, bigger roles too.
Last thing real quick here before we go. So we had the bye week. I'm watching the Cowboys play the Eagles. I watched the Eagles blow this big lead and Dallas beats them. And this is one of those, it feels like season defining type of moments where things could turn for Philadelphia after losing, who knows, right? And I'm sitting there going, had Washington just won that Miami game, held onto the ball and won that Chicago game, they'd be 5-6. All things being equal, you would, and with 2 shots at Philadelphia, that was the what if for me. Watching that happen, going, if those 2 games went the other way, we would be having a very different conversation about what the second half of the season is for this team.
I mean, 1,000,000%. I think about it all the time. Like 5-6 feels great at this point. With all this ahead of you, with all these divisional games in front of you, obviously you're still not mathematically eliminated, but it does feel very different on things that were totally within your control.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, man, that's just football. That's football. Play here, play there, and you're right in the thick of things.
Yep. I'm excited for Sunday night, though. Denver, that'll be fun. Great duo of defensive ends they're going to have to deal with, Benito and Cooper. And Bo Nix, we'll get another profile game of prominent quarterbacks from the 2024 class. Hopefully Jaden Daniels. We'll see. See you later this week. But Bo Nix coming to town, too. It should be a good one. All right, guys. We'll do this after the Denver game next week. See you all next time on the Booth Review. Booth Review was filmed at the BigBear.ai Command Center studio. BigBear.ai offers mission-ready AI for a rapidly evolving world, proudly protecting the Washington Commanders and its fans.